Every day we come into contact with chemicals. We use toothpaste, soap, and mouthwash. We fill our cars with gasoline and antifreeze. We even fertilize our plants. The truth is, modern life would be nearly impossible without chemicals. However, as helpful as these chemicals are, if they're not used properly, they can cause injury or illness. The best way we can protect ourselves from the hazards of chemicals is to be sure we know how to use them correctly. And that's what we're here to do today. We're going to show you how to safely use the chemicals in the restaurant. Today's presentation complies with the Hazard Communication Standard, which is a law administered by OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. To meet the requirements of the Hazard Communication Standard, our restaurant must have a written hazard communication program that promotes safe handling and use of hazardous chemicals. Part of this program is to inform you of your rights and provide you with proper training. The training you will receive today includes 3 areas: how to identify hazardous chemicals, how to read and understand product warning labels and safety data sheets, which we call SDSs, and where to locate SDSs, how to properly handle and use the chemicals in this restaurant. Let's look at the first area, which is how to identify hazardous chemicals. What is a hazardous chemical? OSHA defines a hazardous chemical in a broad sense. It is any substance or mixture that can produce negative effects on the health or safety of a human being. Most cleaning chemicals can be defined as hazardous. However, the level of hazard varies dramatically. Some chemicals may only be irritating, others may be very dangerous. We try to use cleaning chemicals that have minimal or no hazards. But because the chemicals we use can be hazardous, it's important for you to be able to identify those hazards and know how they can affect you. Chemical hazards fall into 2 categories: physical hazards and health hazards. A physical hazard is one that creates a hazardous situation outside the body. For example, if a chemical can cause a fire or explosion, it is a physical hazard. A health hazard, on the other hand, is a hazard that causes health damage. There are 2 types of health hazards: acute and chronic. An acute health hazard does damage to your body in a short amount of time. For example, if you're washing dishes and you get dish detergent in your eyes, it immediately stings. Or if you use a soap that irritates your skin, it could cause a rash. A chronic health hazard affects the body slowly. For instance, breathing in gasoline fumes on a daily basis can cause lung cancer. Or, as many of us have heard before, breathing cigarette smoke can cause lung cancer. To be sure you know what kind of potential hazards exist, the Hazard Communication Standard requires all chemical manufacturers and suppliers to clearly identify hazards in 2 ways. First, on the warning label attached to each container of the chemical, and second, on the SDS that is supplied by the manufacturer. Chemical manufacturers and suppliers, however, aren't the only ones with a responsibility. We, as an employer, and you, as employees, also have responsibilities. As employers, we're responsible for letting you know which chemicals are considered hazardous in our restaurant, making sure that all chemical containers have the appropriate labeling, having a current SDS for each hazardous chemical, providing all the protective equipment necessary for proper safety, and providing the training you need to know how to handle hazardous chemicals safely. In turn, you need to fulfill your part of the responsibility. It's up to you to follow the precautions necessary to protect yourself. To do that, you should read, understand, and follow all instructions on warning labels and SDSs. Always use protective equipment when it's recommended. And follow the safe work practices we learn about in training. Before we move on to the second area, let's look at some of the more common terms you might have heard before or seen on product labels. First, an irritant is a substance that causes temporary eye, skin, or respiratory reactions, such as a minor stinging, itching, or tearing. The second term is corrosive. Corrosive means that a substance causes burns or permanent damage to human tissue, such as skin and eyes, upon contact. Third is toxic. A toxic substance is one that can cause disease or immediate or long-term injury to the body in certain conditions. The fourth term is flammable. A flammable substance is one that catches fire easily and burns quickly. And finally, carcinogenic means that a substance is capable of causing cancer. Now, don't let these terms concern you. Just because we've defined these words does not necessarily mean you will come into contact with chemicals that have these types of hazards. The cleaning products we use in our restaurant present minimal hazards. All containers of hazardous chemicals must have labels. These labels are designed to provide us the name of the chemical, any physical and health hazards the chemical may have, and the name, address, and phone number of a responsible source of information about the product. Additionally, the labels include pictograms to help you easily identify risks. Here's a sample label. This label shows us all the warning information we need. The name of our sample chemical is K Solid Sense Floor Care A. According to this label, it's used as a cleaning product for floors. Any physical or health hazards associated with K Solid Sense Floor Care A are listed on the label. It says, warning, causes serious eye irritation, toxic to aquatic life. Wear eye and face protection. Avoid release to the environment. Do not mix with bleach or other chlorinated products. Will cause chlorine gas. Wash hands thoroughly after handling. Dispose of contents in container in accordance with all local, regional, national, and international regulations. First aid. If in eyes, rinse cautiously with water for several minutes. Remove contact lenses if present and easy to do. Continue rinsing. If eye irritation persists, get medical attention. Skin. In case of contact, immediately flush skin with plenty of water. Remove contaminated shoes and clothing. Get medical attention if irritation persists. Wash clothing before reuse. Clean shoes thoroughly before reuse. If swallowed, rinse mouth, then drink 1 or 2 large glasses of water. Do not induce vomiting. Never give anything by mouth to an unconscious person. Get medical attention immediately. Also on this label, the manufacturer, K Chemical Company, provides their name, address, and phone number. And there is a 24-hour emergency number listed below the first aid. If you ever need to know more about a product's potential hazards than what's provided on the label, you can check the safety data sheet, which, remember, we call an SDS. SDSs contain detailed health and safety information on hazardous chemicals. They list the precautions you need to take when handling a particular chemical, as well as detailed emergency and first aid procedures in case of an accident. The SDSs are available for you to review at any time. Ask your manager where the HazComm book and SDSs are located. You are welcome to request to see them and ask questions about them. Here's a sample SDS. Let's take a look at it and go over the important elements of it. SDSs must provide you certain information. They must list chemical identification, name, address, and telephone number of the manufacturer and the date the SDS was prepared, physical and chemical characteristics, physical hazards, health hazards, primary routes of entry into the body, permissible exposure limits, indications of carcinogenicity, if any, precautions for safe handling, cleanup measures for spills and leaks, control measures, and emergency first aid procedures. These terms sound difficult and confusing, but we're going to look at each one so you can see how SDSs protect you. The layout and design of an SDS is prescribed by OSHA. For today's review, we will use an SDS from K. Section 1 provides identification information. The common name and the chemical name of the material will be listed here. The identification section also includes the name and address of the chemical manufacturer, emergency phone numbers, and the date the form was written or last updated. Section 2 identifies any hazards, label elements, and precautionary statements. Section 3 provides the composition and/or information on the ingredients. Section 4, you'll find first aid information. This section provides emergency and first aid procedures in the event of exposure. Firefighting measures are provided in Section 5. This section explains the best way to put out a fire involving that chemical. Section 6 covers accidental release measures. Here you will find information on personal and environmental precautions as well as proper methods of containment and cleanup. Precautions for safe handling and storage are covered in Section 7. In Section 8, the SDS lists special protection information. In this section, you can find out what types of protective clothing or equipment, if any, you may need when handling this product. This section also lists safe exposure limits if they have been set by OSHA. In Section 9, physical and chemical properties are listed. In other words, this section describes how the chemical looks, how it smells, and how it behaves. Section 10 describes the stability and reactivity of the material. Section 11 provides toxicological information. Sections 12 and 13 describe ecological, environmental considerations and waste disposal. Section 14 provides transportation information. Section 15 lists all other regulatory information about the material. Section 16 provides the date of preparation or last revision, as well as any additional information that the manufacturer wishes to provide. SDSs provide us a lot of information, and it's important that you know how to use them. Remember, you are welcome to review our written program at any time and ask questions about it. The written HazComm program is kept in a binder. Ask your manager where it is located. In it, you can find a list of hazardous chemicals in this restaurant, SDSs for all hazardous chemicals, labels, and health and safety practices. Thanks for your attention during this training. We know with your help we can have a safe work environment.